So good morning, everyone. I appreciate you joining in on Friday. We have a lot of material to go through today, and so I'm already thinking that at some point we're going to probably want to do like a follow-up after you guys have had some time to uh, play around with it. But we're going to move through some of the slides a lot quicker because we kind of covered the content last week, but I thought that they were worth mentioning as well. So let's jump right in. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about making the content accessible in Acrobat. And we're going to go over, just briefly mention what is not reviewed in the checker, determining where to start, identifying issues in Adobe. We're going to be using the academic PDF one as a demo for that. We're going to talk about how to fix the issues. And if you starting from scratch, we'll only touch, I know we're doing revisions to some, but I want to point out kind of like the benefit a little bit of doing it directly from Word to begin with. And so just a quick review, things that the checker is not going to check for is that the quality of the alt text on images. You're going to have to manually check the reading order. That's how you move through the content. That your hyperlinks are unique and descriptive, that you have the headings in place, like H1s, H2s. That's going to be for structure, that your tables are set up properly. You don't have any color contrast issues. That's going to be a manual check. And that things like font and spacing and stuff like that are good to go as well. And the information we presented, or I presented last time on, will have a lot of those more detailed informations on those. So the first thing is really trying to decide where to start. Obviously, that in a perfect world, starting from scratch, because most of these errors that we're going to look at today wouldn't occur if it was created from scratch from Word. That's not to say that creating from Word is going to make everything perfect, but it's going to really eliminate a lot of the errors. Um, Obviously, we're going to fix some of these in Acrobat. They can be time consuming and complex. And on the different slides, I tried to make notations of which ones are easy fixes and which ones are more complicated. And the other thing I did is I also converted the PDF into a Word doc. And that's another option, is to go and then fix it in the Word doc and then convert it back to a PDF. The problem with the third option is that you could get weird errors in that back and forth, or so just be very careful when going back and forth. Although when we take a look at this one, this might be a perfect candidate for either redoing it completely from scratch or converting it into a Word doc. And I sent you that. So can everybody pull up Adobe Acrobat and open the academic reinstatement form that I sent?
Last name on that, Cindy. My Outlook has been. This is like a Monday.
That was just the one before that. Should be right here.
This is the PDF that I'm talking about. Is everybody able to get that open?
Open it in Acrobat. She should have said it won't be.
And depending on your version, it might the tools might be on the right versus on the left. Might look a little bit different, but it should be the same tools. And then I sent directions yesterday on how to make sure that you could see the accessibility checker. Is everybody good on that? because it is a little hard for me to hear and see, if, just raise your hand if you have if you're trying to get it, you're not ready yet.
I'm not ready yet.
Okay.
Sorry.
So open that one.
And for those that might have any issues with this, you can do today's training without having to do it and just watch everything, but you're going to want to have that extra time to play around with these things afterwards, because it's very important. Like, if you don't do it, you'll probably lose it.
All right, I'm there now.
Okay, so under all tools, there's view more, and we're looking for prepare for accessibility. And if you click that, then for mine, the fourth option down says check accessibility. And then go ahead and leave the defaults the way they are, and then just select start checking. And then you'll see on the right side, you'll see a list of errors. And when you first look at this, you're like, oh, I only have 6 errors. That's not bad, until you actually get into it. And so I recommend you take a quick dive into all of the different errors to determine whether or not you're going to try and fix it in Acrobat, or go ahead and redo it or repair it in Word. I will tell you, being that this is a 4-pager and some of these issues are definitely complex, this is definitely one that I would want to rebuild in Word. And when we get into when we get further into the content, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Hey, Katie.
Yes.
Sorry, so I was behind, or I couldn't keep up. So can you start with under all tools, where we go?
So under all tools, you're going to look for one that says prepare for accessibility. And then there should be one that says check for accessibility.
Prepare for accessibility, got that, and now check. Okay, thank you very much.
And then just run and then just start checking.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Okay. So we're going to go through each of these issues, and then at the end, what's going to happen is some of the issues you're going to want to fix at the start, some you're going to want to fix at the end. It'll make more sense when we start actually going through the flow. So on this particular document, the issues that pulled up were the title failed, the color contrast needs manual checking, it's missing alt text. Under forms, it is missing field descriptions. The tagging of the form fields were skipped, which basically means that it wasn't able to verify those. The tagged annotations, which is kind of like the naming, that failed. And then the logical reading order needs to be checked, and that's how it's moving through. But really, it didn't check if your fonts were good, if your hyperlinks were good, all of that kind of stuff. It didn't cover. So those are things that you want to have already accessible when you're creating the document, but are relatively easy fixes in Adobe. You can change font and color and that kind of stuff within there. So the suggested order for repair, and this is just mine, the others are going to say something different. On mine, I put some of the easier ones to fix up at the top. So document properties, this is going to be title and language, and we'll cover that. Your headings and structure, if set up in Word, should not be an issue. However, when fixing inside of Adobe, it can be a little bit more complex. Alt tags, easy fix in both. Color and hyperlinks, relatively easy in both. Tables, This is going to be up there with headings and structures. If done in Word, should be relatively easy to convert, but if not, can be problematic. Forms, tags, reading order and tab order. We'll go through all of these, and then I always recommend once you've made all your changes that you run that checker again and make sure that everything is good. So for some of these, most of the changes for like heading structures, tables, forms, a lot of those are going to be addressed when we actually get into the tags in the reading order. But for covering just the content, I move them up in the suggested order for repair. So the first one I want to show is on the document properties. So if you switch back to your PDF, and there's that little ticky arrow thing beside it, and just click down and you're going to see the different errors or that either pass or are an error. And here's, you're going to see that you got to check the reading order manually. You're going to need to check the color contrast manually. But here it says that the title field. Now, right above it, primary language passed. So in that Word document, I mentioned last time that it should default to passed when you're saving it. But the title is something that you need to go in and fix on the Word doc. But it's a relatively easy fix in Adobe. You simply right click on it and you should see the word fix. And then this is just me testing it. You would put in, it should probably look like this initially. So uncheck the leave as is, and then put in your title that you want it to say. And then just hit OK. So fixing the language, fixing the title, easy fixes, easily done in both platforms. And so I just marked that down here that they're easy to fix in both platforms. We're good on that one?
Yeah.
And I am moving through some of these quicker so that we have more time for the complex stuff. Headings. This is, again, that structure, your H1s, your H2. It's how your screen reader is going to move through the sections. It's your structure. It is easier to fix these in Word when you're initially setting up the document. If you don't have those, we'll be able to fix those when we get to the tag section. And also probably reading order as well. So alt text, this came up as an error, relatively easy fix in both platforms. And so if you go back over to your PDF and you look for the message that says alt text one issue, click on the little arrow down and it'll say figures alternative text failed. Again, all you have to do is right click it and say fix. And it's going to pop up this little box here where you can put in the alt text if you need alt text, or you can mark it as a decorative figure. Like I said last time, I like to usually put in that it is a logo, but that's up to you. And if you had more than one issue, you would just be able to use these little arrows to move through. So you could make all of your alt text changes in one shot. So that is something relatively easy to do in both. And then you just save it. And then when I saved it, you notice that the error went away. And also the same thing up here, when I fixed the title, that error went away. Now it says passed. So the only two things it's really asking for here is really pointing out the reading order and the color contrast. But again, in the back of your minds, you're thinking hyperlinks, font style, colors, etc. Any questions on alt text?
No.
So we're not going to demonstrate how to do this one. This is the same information that we gave last time, that fixing the color contrast. it is relatively easy in both platforms. However, with Word, you're going to get that hex code, like HTML code, or you're going to get the RGB. Acrobat only has RGB, so the web aim contrast checker that we used last time, I don't know if you recall, it was actually using the hex code. So you might have to do a conversion, like what is the hex code in RGB? For that, it might be a little bit easier to do in Word. But again, I would not recreate a document to just change the color contrast. And once you manually check that everything is good to go, this document doesn't have any issues with that. You can just select the word pass and that error will go away. So I came back over here. I just go to color contrast and right click on it and say pass. Hyperlinks, relatively easy fix in both platforms. It's simply editing the font. Again, the same rules apply. Be descriptive, concise, unique. Try to use a shortened URL if for some reason you have to put that full link in there. The checker, like I said, is not going to catch that. And tables, so you're looking for that proper table structure. We'll go into this a little bit more later. Your table rows, your table height, which is the TR, TH. If the tables are not set up right, they could easily break the reading order. And so it's really important to have those set up before you get into the reading order. And again, it's if done in Word, I'm going to say that so many times and I apologize, but again, a lot of these issues, just stressing that if done in Word are not going to be a problem. So when you're thinking about what am I going to fix on this one, you might already start to think, oh, well, maybe I should just rebuild it in Word. Relatively easy fix in Word, but it can be fixed through the tags in the reading order, and it's medium level complexity for tables. So just a couple definitions before we get into some of the other content. You might hear me say tag order, and that's for the screen readers to know what the content is. So is it a form field? Is it a heading? Is it a paragraph? What is it that it's identifying? Then the tab order, this is really just for keyboard navigation on those interactive elements like form fields and buttons, links, and potentially some other types of interactive. It's how you tab through it. So once you've got your reading order and everything else is good to go, tab order will probably be a non-issue. But it is important to keep in mind that when you finish making your document accessible, open it up in a browser and make sure that you can tab through to those different interactive elements. And then reading order is the structure of the page. So the very first item at the top would be element 1. And then as you move down the page, it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So sometimes when we pull something up, you might see that the logo, even though it's the first thing on the page, is actually marked 25th on the page. And so we'll need to manually adjust that. And I'll show you how to do that as well. Just want to check my notes here. Okay, so tag order and
Andy, we have a question.
yes.
I'm not fully understanding the difference between reading order. Like, would tag order and tab order affect reading order, I assume?
Yeah, yes. So the tag order is making sure that it's named properly. And then and then the reading order is how you move through it. And then the tab is only really for the keyboard, how you tab. The reading, let me try again. The reading order is how the screen reader is going to read it. And then the tab order is how using the keyboard is going to navigate it. But then once you get the reading order in the correct order, the tab order should follow right afterwards.
That helps.
And so let me pull up over here. So for an example, if you switch back over to the application and you look at page content, you're like, oh, one issue. That's not bad. Till you open it up, and then you're going to see tagged and annotations failed. So you already know that some of the naming is going to be wrong. Like the heading might not be marked as a heading. Form fields are not marked as forms. And so we'll actually go through this. But just to give you an example of, this is the tag structure for this page. And as you can see, when I select it, the item that I've selected should be highlighted. So you can see that this is already number 2. Well, if I click on this P stands for paragraph. There's a paragraph apparently somewhere around this logo, but you can't see it. So that's wrong. Then you click this paragraph, okay, but this is probably your H1. So that would need to be fixed. Then your next paragraph, I don't see anything highlighted in pink. And so you just scroll through the whole thing and you're like, okay, I have no content inside of that paragraph. The H1, well, the H1 should be this one. So this is what an example of the tags, the names. This should be a form field. This should be marked as a form field. This should probably be listed as a heading. So logo figure is good. H1, paragraph for text, an H2, form. And so you could already tell that the tags on this one are not how they should be set up. So you're going to need to retag it. So when I'll show you what are your options when we actually go into tagging.
And Katie, what did you click to get to the tags? I can't.
In the PDF, if you still have your accessibility checker open, and I end up closing mine all the time. If you lose this accessibility checker tag thing, just run the checker again and it'll pop back up. But the bottom one, it looks kind of like a tag on a shirt or something like that. And if you click that, this tag window should pop open.
I don't think most of us have it. I do have it because a while back I added it to my menu. So I think it's a menu option, but you have to go in and add it to your menu.
Okay,
I
so
can't remember if I did it, but it was somewhere in the menu.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, I don't have that. I don't have.
do all of you have the ones that you're able to fix it though?
The list,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure we have it. It's just, it needs to be added to our icon list.
Okay. Trying to think if and I apologize, I do not know off the top of my head how you would add that. Wonder if you click on the little pluses, do you see anything like like tagged annotation document is tagged PDF? I just hit the little 3 dots next to accessibility tags. Does that make a difference?
I don't see that.
I think I found out how to get the accessibility tags. So if you see the little round circle with the figure in the middle, all the way to the right, you right click it and you go to accessibility tags and you just select it.
Ah,
There we are. Okay, Anna figured
Okay,
it.
all right.
Thank you.
Well, that is new for me. So thank you for your help with that. So hopefully now you can see all the different elements here. So you can kind of see already that it's missing some tags. We're gonna need, you're gonna need to re-tag it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anna. Now. Okay.
And so even though on this one, if you go back over to,
You want the crowd, then you don't spit.
Okay. Do you wanna look with someone?
if you look under the accessibility checker, it's going to say that tagged content passed, in tab order passed, but you can't, I mean, as we just saw, clearly there were some issues with how it was tagged. Yes, there is tagged content in there, but does it make logical sense? Is the naming correct? And in this case, it's not. So even though it says it's passed, it doesn't mean that it's passed. You still need to go in there and check it. Okay, so some of those common problems that you're going to get is the content being out of logical order. Like like the first thing on that page was an image. Is that the number one element on the page? The next element should be probably an H1. So is the content in the correct order? Are there duplicate tags? Are there empty tags? Content not inside the tag? For decorative elements, they're going to be marked as what we call an artifact. Again, we'll show this a little bit later how to mark that. But it's just like those images that a decorative image, you can just simply click on that and mark it as an artifact, and the screen reader will skip right over that. So on the document, the academic application, I was able to scroll through all of the different P's in the tags and find the P that represented the image to the left. And so the image to the left is showing that in that paragraph tag, all of this content is marked within one paragraph. And if you look at this, you can see that the academic application for reinstatement, that's your H1, it's on its own. And then the next block has a paragraph, an H2, and then 2 form fields. Those should not be in the same paragraph together. So you would need to tag that first sentence as a paragraph. Then you would need the tag student information as an H2. And then the employee ID and name could be a paragraph together, but those form fields are missing a label that says this is a form. So the screen reader wouldn't know what that is. It would just skip right over it. And then same thing for the email. And then look down under completed credits. In that one there, you've got paragraphs. You've got at least 3 either H2s or H3s. form fields not tagged. So you can just kind of look at this one and see how the content is grouped together. And now hopefully it'll be a little bit more clear as to why there was a lot of those paragraphs, but a lot of them are empty where they should be individual ones. Like every paragraph, whether it be 1 or 2 sentences, still should be marked as its own paragraph. And this is one of those things, it might sound a little bit confusing, but if it's done in Word, it's already going to have those tags. It should be properly tagged for the most part, correct, in Word when you convert it over to a PDF. Those H1s, those paragraph information, all of that should transfer over into the PDF without having to fix that. Okay, so tagged annotations. This is those things like links, comments, form fields, buttons. The screen reader doesn't know what those what those elements are unless they're tagged, and these are very specific ones. So let's go back over to the PDF, and you've got your accessibility checker open, and then you see here tagged annotations. Sorry, failed. Do your little down arrow, and you're going to see element 1. And if you click on that, let me click off of it again. Look closely at the vice president's signature. If I click that, it's saying that there's no field on that. It doesn't know what that is. And so we're going to have to mark that as a field, as a form field there. And that's just saying that it's marked, it's missing, it has no tag on it whatsoever. The others could have tags on them, but they might be the wrong tags. Like this could be marked as it could be marked as a form. It could be marked within a paragraph. So that's where you need, when we go into the reading order, in the tag order, that's where you're going to be actually able to see what these are actually named, in that they're in the correct order. So this is just telling you that this element here has no name, no tag, no nothing on it, and it needs something for it. And then I'll show you how to fix that. And then that error, you would probably go back in, right click on it, and then check again after we fix the error. But let's just go ahead and do that. So do the right right there, and then what it likes is it's trying to capture. All right, I'm going to use my I'm going to make a box around it with my mouse. Nope. Actually, let me just hold on. Let me stick to my thing, and I'll show you how to do that one.
So Katie, I have a question.
Yes.
So when you're saying like, something needs to be like in a format, right? Or labeled form, you do that in the Word document first?
So we'll talk about this. The problem is that yes, you can do it in Word. And I ran a couple of test runs on it. And on one of the documents that I sent you, the one says example 3 structure, down at the bottom of that Word document, you'll see fall, spring, and summer. And I think fall has like a little checkbox next to it, and then there's some spacing and stuff. When I converted that over, even though that was a legitimate checkbox, it did not it transferred over, but it didn't know what it was. And so I feel on my suggestion is that you create the structure for the forms fields in Word, but that you actually create the form fields in Acrobat. And I'll show you how to do that as well. So what I would suggest is set up everything else, all your structure, your tables, your headings, your fonts, everything. And then within that structure, leave spaces for the actual form fields. And I'll show you some suggested ways of doing that.
Okay, thank you. That
You
helps.
can do it. You should be able to do it. And it should transfer seamlessly over to Adobe. But I'm finding that it's temperamental and it's not always the case. And what I would hate for somebody to do is waste a lot of time making everything on the forms perfect in Word, and then it converts and there's an issue. And I
Okay.
can't tell you why it works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, I wasn't worried so much about the why as the how, so thank you.
Okay. And then, so what does it mean for an annotation to be tagged? It means that it's going to appear in the tags panel. It's makes sense in the document structure. It's got a name to it. It's in the correct reading order. And that's when you hit it, that screen reader is going to say, oh, this is a submit button, or this is an email address, or this is an edit text field or something like that. So that's when you're naming it, you're giving it a name that screen reader is going to be able to recognize, so that your user is like, oh, okay, I need to hit the submit button now. And then, as I mentioned before, artifacts are those decorative type elements that you don't need for the screen reader. And when we get to the reading order panel, if you see on the circle here, it's very faint, but it says background artifact. All you would have to do is select the item and then mark it as background artifact. And then the screen reader will skip right over that. And there are a couple of issues that happen that I noticed, that if you just can't figure out what is going on, and it's like, there's one that we'll see on the structure document that I sent over. There's a space in there somewhere, and I couldn't figure out for the life of me where it was. So on some cases, you could mark something as an artifact, so the screen reader just skips over it. Visually, it's a non-issue, or you might be able to delete something. But basically, like, these are really more for like your decorative images and stuff like that, that it's nice to have, but the person using a screen reader doesn't need it. Okay, so we're going to watch a little video that will hopefully explain this a little bit clearer, and then we'll actually practice a little bit on this one.
You see?
Okay, today we're going to,
Let me put the volume up on this for you guys.
learn how to correct
She's very kind of low sounding. Can everybody hear her okay?
Yes, we're good.
tagged annotations when they fail the accessibility check in a form. So I've already run the accessibility check on this document, and you can see I've got 4 elements that failed. And so what we're going to do is we're going to leave the accessibility toolbar still open, and we're going to go down here till it says reading order. So when we open that up, you just go through here and make sure that only this one that says show page content groups is checked. The rest of them are not. Most of you will have this, it's black. And you see how easy it was for me to change it to another color because there's so much black on the page that it gives me a headache. So I change it to hot pink or to red. Let's just leave it hot pink. So you can see when that is open that a lot of these items over here on my document have rectangles around them and they've got numbers on them. That's the order that the reader will read them in, is the way the numbers are. Okay, so what we're looking for is these items over here that failed being tagged. So I'm going to click on element 1. And you can see that this item brightened up and it does not have this hot pink rectangle around it. So this is the element that is not tagged. So to do so, what I'm going to do is, you see my cursor has turned into the little 4 points, like a compass. I'm going to click, hold it down, drag across it, and then let go. And you see that it highlighted in blue around there. Once it's highlighted in blue, I'm going to go up here to my Touch Up Reading Order tool. And I'm going to click on the word form field, because that's what this is. This is a form field that just didn't get tagged for some reason. So I'm going to click on form field. And you see now it has that pink rectangle around it. So when you find your element and you have to highlight it, some of them are going to look a little different. Like, see number 1 right here, this is an element. It's probably just where somebody hit a paragraph return, but this is actually considered background. So if you have something that comes in and shows like it's nothing, then that is actually background. So you can click on that. So we're going back over here to our element 2. And
I'm going to pause it there. So on this one, that background is your artifact. It's a little bit older of a document. So let's actually go in and we'll do this one together. If you have, go ahead and pull up, if you have the document open, go ahead and go over to element 1 under tagged annotations.
It's gonna be done in forms tag 1. Sorry.
Sorry, I went back out. Okay. I watched. And then if you, mine disappeared. If you go under, back over under all tools, prepare for accessibility, down at the bottom should be fixed reading order. And if you select that, then that little box that you showed in the video should pop up. And let me know if anybody has a problem getting it to element 1 with the reading order box open. We're good?
Hold on, I'm slow. So I need to unclick like show table cells, display like elements.
Yeah, so you should, it should just be, you should just need the show page content groups and page content order.
Okay, so.
And then like she did in the video, to the right of it is that black box.
Right.
Go ahead and click in the black box and change it to a color that you like. This is very bright. You might not like hot pink. But it does a good job of showing you what elements are there.
All right, and so take me back to what we were trying to fix on here.
That's what I'm looking for right now. It's like, okay,
Element 1 under tag annotation.
It's the vice president's signature.
Vice president's signature. Tag annotations failed, element 1. So I'll let you know.
It may be something. I'm just kidding.
let me go back out. And what I did, right here says tagged annotations. It's still a little, we should be looking probably at this one here, but what I did is I right clicked into it and then I said show in content panel.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we've got the correct one.
Yeah, I put a box around.
Okay, so you put your box around it. And as you see on mine, I selected too many things. So just click out. So you want to get enough to cover all of it, but maybe not extra in there.
What if you got extra in there? Is there a way to delete those extras?
What might happen is it might create an empty tag.
Okay.
So you're going to be going back and forth sometimes between, you get all your tags straight. So on something like this, I would fix as much as you can, but then you're going to have to go back in and recheck it sometimes. So I would go ahead and that's good enough. And then you just mark it as a form field back over in the reading order.
Okay, let's see. So once we've got that area chosen, take me through.
So I highlighted the area, I got the box around the content that I wanted, and then I went over to the reading order, and it's grayed out right now, but you would click form field.
Okay.
And then you go ahead and click close, or you just leave it open, but form field. And then what I did is I went back over to the annotations, and I apologize, I did this too fast, but what I did is I clicked on element 1 and then said check again. And then that error message went away. But now what happened is now I've got this error message. So that's where you got to, sometimes it's got to be careful. See, although that doesn't, I don't know why those are causing errors, but we'll come back to that. But now that annotation one should be good to go. Should say passed. And I'm going to have to come back to the character encoding because that's the first time I got that one, the pop up. So I need to do a little bit more research on that one. It's probably the way there might have been too much selection. Did anybody else get that error?
Character encoding, yeah, mine says passed.
Okay, yeah, so it's just me. It's how I highlighted it. What I probably do is just go back and undo my change and then redo it again. So that if that error occurred after I did something, clearly I did something wrong, and I'm pretty sure is that how much I selected in there, but you shouldn't get this error if you did it correctly. Was that okay on showing how they like tag an element?
Okay, April and Anna in particular, are y'all good? We're relying on our younger tech savvy folks.
So,
a little bit.
quick question, just check with Tabitha, but so every box that the student or that a staff member is supposed to fill out should be designated as a form field, correct?
Correct, yes.
Can you talk about any of these others in the reading order, like reference, note? I guess that's like a footnote. Is there anything else that's maybe not self-explanatory?
To be honest with you, I would have to double check on reference and note. They're not ones that I'm familiar with off the top of my head.
You know the difference between figure and figure caption?
The figure is just like, would just be you're just like, it's just the image on its own, and then the figure with caption is gonna have like a description along with that, different than the alt tag. So like you might have a table that when you make the table, it's got a lot of information in there. You might have a description that's added to that. And so a lot of times there's probably going to be just a figure. But there might be times where you have a figure that also has a caption, or it could be called like the description with it.
And then the table and the cell, so would you label every cell in a table and then label the whole table, or like that feels a little redundant, I guess.
Yeah, no, you should be good with just marking it with the table, the TR, the table row, and the table height, or the TR, TD, so that the column and the rows. You shouldn't have to go in and do the cells.
Katie, can we take a real fast bathroom break?
Yes, I was going to, yep, it's 11, so we're going to take just a quick bathroom one and then come right back.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So,
You better learn all this.
Scott
Yeah,
sent us
youngster,
a,
you better learn all this.
Scott says, we have a meeting with him on the 11th. So. Tabitha, are you free?
So I was like, Tabitha, what are your office hours?
I'm getting ready to see.
Girl,
this
I
is
mean,
on
we're
the-
looking at
I'm
this
just going to
thinking,
the
you know what,
library.
we're just not gonna send out any forms anymore.
I just realized we didn't have to go back and forth between Word, Adobe, like, since this is a VCCS wide thing, I feel like it should just be one.
Well, yeah, we're supposed to be hiring a
Well,
part-time
we-
person in business office because we've realized we way too much
Exactly.
work. I think
Are
this
you
is what that
free?
person is gonna be learning to do,
Yeah, so
and
that-
every time I send out something, I'll send it to her
So
first,
then-
then she can say, yes, it's fixed, and then I'll send it out.
Do you mind assisting us, cause we don't even have the right stuff, so we
I
can't.
just, I feel like we need a few experts that can handle this because.
And I don't,
Yeah.
I thought I had it the whole time.
This
too.
is, I'm so overwhelmed with just trying to learn Lisa's
The
stuff.
first training was like, I was
Tracy?
like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
yeah, I could do this, like, it's not that bad, and then doing
Yeah. This is
And the
overwhelming.
thing is, mine wasn't even coming over like hers, like that, I think it was the alt text or something, she only had one,
So,
and I had 77.
so Lori,
Oh.
So I'm like, what in the world?
What?
Lori, I don't have none of the right stuff.
Well, you need pro though, don't you?
I need pro.
And the
I don't
problem is
have
we're gonna
Word,
have to
20.
purchase
But you're
more
on the
licenses.
list for pro.
Yeah, I don't know why. I
So
don't
somehow
have it.
you should
It might be a
have
login, are
access.
you
Yeah,
logging
you may
into
not log into it.
VCCS?
Mhm.
I did have multiple Adobe accounts and I had to always log in through my pro account. So finally I just deleted my
Oh, really?
basic.
Cause I only need
Yeah.
one and that was.
I had to go pro when X was here. That's when we went pro, and then I was like, Tracy has to have pro.
But I can't do
It's here.
anything with my
They're like,
laptop.
we only have so many people who put on the license, and I'm like, then we need to purchase the licenses, because
Yeah.
we can't do this.
You
If
can't have
you're
one
not
person that has to.
Right. But then VCCS, we got VCCS,
Mhm.
so, yeah.
So that was
I can't do
kind of
anything.
telling me that we didn't have enough license.
So I
Yeah.
will just repeat my offer. Josh in the testing center will turn your forms into electronic forms.
Oh, Joshua. Yay, Josh.
Since that's a one-time thing, like, we're not gonna remediate PDFs, we'll help you, but we'll turn it into electronic form, which I think solves a lot of these problems.
Well, and
but it doesn't do signatures.
Well, and this is going through editing already existing document, whereas it sounded like she recommended
Yeah.
creating one from
Explain
scratch,
this
so
to me.
how do we create one from scratch?
So I think, please tell me if this is true. So someone told me if you're sending out a document that you know someone doesn't need to be accessible, is it your responsibility to make it accessible even if you're not sending to someone who needs it that way? Because what if they send it out? Is it then their responsibility to make sure it's accessible, or should I send that accessible to begin
I think a lot of that will
Do you
have
see
to
what I'm
be
saying?
determined in the courts. Yeah,
Because,
don't
I mean,
think
if
it's
I
figured
know I'm
out yet.
sending it over to Eve,
Right.
who doesn't need it accessible, why would I wanna take the time out of my day to make sure it's accessible? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. I don't, good Lord, I don't know what time it is.
Right.
So I'm just wondering, well, are there
And
guidelines for that
she
yet?
would know. Yeah. Grace and I are looking at
I do think it's a
our
relatively
digital
new law, so
transcripts,
I hear
Ah.
different
diplomas.
things about
I've been hearing
that.
different things too. Someone said, no, it's the responsibility of the person who sends it out to determine whether or not it needs to be accessible.
be
So-
BCCS.
For contracts,
Like I
so
said,
I
because
need,
you have
have like a
I don't need
template.
accessible. Tracy doesn't need, you know, if I'm just
I
sending
emailed
out to
Marcia
our,
yesterday, and I
a
have
group of
template,
people I know
so
for
that
sure doesn't need it anyway.
It's just.
I think at this point, I would not worry about it. I would worry about the ones that are going to more people.
And I don't
Those are the
usually
higher
send
risk.
for, yeah, I don't usually send for out to many other people, so.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, no.
Are we good to go?
Yes, ma'am, everybody good?
Yes, Josh.
Yes, thank you.
Sorry, just 1 second, resume. Okay. All righty, so we just went over the fixing the failed annotation. And what's interesting, here I have element 1 and element 2. So something along the way that we've done so far has automatically fixed like when we just did the example, I only had 1 element. So somewhere along the way in this morning's training, one of the elements got fixed. So that's a good example of showing how you need to just be going back and forth checking these things, because you could be fixing something or breaking something along the way.
That's fine.
PDFs are they're good and they're bad, but they can be very complex when it comes to accessibility. So the reading order is how the screen reader will navigate all the different elements on a page. And so you want to make sure that it's left to right, top to bottom. This can be very time consuming and complex in both documents, depending on the type of issue. But if originally set up in Word, that structure should already be in place. So let's take a look at an example of this. So bear with me just 1 second, 23.
Okay, think about it.
Who's the responsibility starts with this? What if she needs to then send it forward to somebody else? Should I have already made it accessible so that she can just send it out immediately? Or should, and what if, because I wouldn't know whether she's gonna send it.
So what I did is I opened up the reading panel, and you can see that let me pause for just 1 moment here and stop the share. I just need to pull up one other document. Apologies.
Very stressful. My concern is I send out spreadsheets almost everything that we do. This is but I have to make every single one of those accessible.
Okay, I'm back.
In my day, I send
several. It sounds like there's spreadsheets there.
Sometimes they're converted to PDFs.
Okay. Alrighty, so back over to the PDF. I have the reading order panel open, and then I selected show order panel
Reading order.
down here.
Hold on, let me get back to it.
You don't need to TCC because they do on camera.
Show order.
TCC does the same back.
Okay,
And so, right here, it says 8 next to the logo. So the screen reader, the first thing that it's going to read on the page, it's going to skip that logo and it's going to read academic application. There's a little 1 right here, if you can see it. And then this whole block of text is marked as 2. But as we mentioned before, we're going to want this as a paragraph, this academic application here, that we're going to want that as a paragraph on its own. So, but as far as reading order goes, all right, that's the first thing. That's the second thing. But really, we want this logo because it's the top of the page. And if it's important, we're going to want this to be number 1. So if you look at your order panel, when you do show order panel, you'll see we're looking at page 1. And these are the 8 elements that are in there. And so if you click on 8, an image, and you can just kind of drag, you see the little line dragging it up. For some reason, I have trouble. Oh, it actually worked that time. Okay, cool. So now image is number 1. It's tag number 1. Academic application is number 2. Good. That next paragraph is 3. Then down here for number 4 is here. 5, 6, 7. So some of these aren't bad. This part is good. 4, 5, 6. Those are good as far as reading order goes. But this whole chunk here is going to need to be re-tagged and then as different elements, and then it's going to need to be checked for the reading order. So that right there is extremely time consuming and would pretty much automatically make me go, I'm going to rebuild this in Word, because you're going to, it's all kind of grouped together. And so it's reading it as one long block of text, and the screen reader is not going to be able to understand what to do. And so they're not going to be able to tell the student what's going on there. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah. How do you ungroup it? Like, can you give like a 30-second?
What was that?
Can you give like a 30-second answer for how do you ungroup it? Like a.
Oh, yeah. So if you go over to the reading thing, you're going to want to clear your page structure.
Okay, gotcha.
And then it's going to take it all off. And now there's nothing in pink. There's no tags at all. And then you're going to go in, and although for some reason that's still, I don't know why, that one's still marked. So that's good. But you would go in, let's see, and then you're going to want to highlight. See, we want this whole thing highlighted, which is fine as long as it's all there. And then you'd go in and you would say that this is text paragraph. It's just these little blank spot, these little lines are just the spaces between some of the letters, but that's all big 1 there. And you just mark, now it's a whole box. And then you go to this one. I don't know if I got it all. You got to be careful. There we go. That's going to be your H1. Then 3. Then this is probably, you got to be so careful how much you highlight there. And then student, that's your H2. So you need to just go through that, through each one of these fields and do that, which is not, I mean, that's not bad if it's just like a page, but imagine if you had, you'll have to go through page by page, and it's really going to depend on some of the other errors that are occurring as well. So you just really, it's really important to just evaluate everything up front and then make the decision of how many errors do I have and what ones are going to be easy to fix and what ones are going to be more time consuming. Would everybody like to try that real fast on your thing? I would go in and clear your page structure.
And can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
So, in terms of which to do first, should we prioritize and start with fixing the reading order and then move on to tab order, or tag order and then tab order? What would you recommend? The sequence.
It's tricky because I feel in a way it's almost like the chicken and the egg. I think reading order, I think everything defaults to reading order. So if your reading order is set up straight and you've already, and you see that there's issues, and you're going to see right away that there are tag issues, and you decide to clear the page, and you're going to fix every single one of those tag issues. Hopefully you're going to fix every one of those tag issues now. Or you can go in and retag it, but then you're going to have to check the order. So I think that if you have to retag a lot of elements, then it's better to do the reading order first and tag along the way versus tagging and then going back in and checking the reading order. But they're gonna be kind of almost in a way, they're very much interacting together on how it's done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a case-to-case basis of how many issues.
Yeah.
Each element.
Yeah, it's going to depend on how many errors and what type. I think clearing the page structure. So your options, I think I have this in the slides. So this is what we looked at online. The academic was 1, 2, this whole block was 2, and then it jumped down to 3. It looks a little bit different than what we just did because I'm adjusting that PDF at the same time. But to fix it in Acrobat, you would go in and you would clear the page structure, retag each block of content, and then make sure use the reading panel, the reading order panel to make sure that's in the correct order. So at this point, you're tagging and doing the reading order at the same time. The other thing you could do is you could take it into Word and again over there, clear out the formatting, reset up your page structure. There's a couple things you don't want to do. Like you don't try not to use the tab for certain things. Like margins are good, inserting the table, and do it through the insert, not the draw option. And then just make sure your table's set up with the heading, the headers and stuff like that. So it's one of those things, like if it's just a few little things, it might just be easier to do it in Acrobat. But if you're finding yourself, I have to do, I put all new headers in there, all new table structure, all this stuff, and it starts adding up, then you might want to consider going ahead and doing it inside of Word.
So I'm finding, if I'm even doing it right, like when I'm highlighting the form fields,
So.
like it's giving me
Check my emails.
3 different numbers, like for reading order.
We're going to come back to, hold off on marking anything as a form just yet. I want to go into those a little bit more detail. But again, if we're doing those separately, then yeah, you would have to go back in and probably, retag and check the order again. But there's some special things I want to show on forms there's a couple different scenarios with forms that I want to show. But again, you'd be doing it at the same time when you're actually going into the document, and just how I'm presenting it is a little different. Okay, into forms, all of that to say now we are finally into forms. So when we're looking at a form, the error message, actually, we pop back over to the PDF, close this out, go back over, and oh, it says forms, one issue. Oh, that's not bad. And then you're like, oh, failed descriptions, which means that there's no name for it and there's no label for it, which I'll explain in just a minute. But if you click this down arrow, you're going to see that every field is missing it. And this fix is going to be pretty much the same within Word or within Acrobat. So for something like this, if everything else, your structure's everything good, because we don't want to name everything in Word, because it's going to come over and it may work and it may not. So this is one that you can do, you should probably do in Acrobat and not move this one over to Word. And so here we're talking about the text boxes, the check boxes, radio buttons, drop downs, and the buttons. So what does it mean for the form field to be tagged? That it's going to appear in the tags panel. It's going to follow in the structure. It's going to have a tooltip and or label. I'll explain that it's in that correct tab order, because it's one of those navigation interactive elements. And so the tab order and the reading order needs to be done. And that label that you're putting on it, the tooltip, is what that screen reader is going to read out loud. So first name or subscribe to newsletter, so they know what action they need to do when they are selecting that. I do believe we also got tagged form field skipped. Yes, right here it says tagged form field skipped. That particular message just means that the tags on the form were not tagged properly for accessibility. So when you fix the form fields, this message, this error message should go away. It just basically said, oh, there's some errors. I'm not even going to check it. I'm just going to skip right over those. Okay, so how you would fix these is, let's go back over to the PDF. And over here on the right, come out of, use this little arrow here in the corner, and then scroll through your tools, and you should hopefully see one that says prepare form. If not, you're going to add it the same way you did the accessibility one. And when you try to prepare the form, what's going to happen is Acrobat is going to look for anything that could possibly be a form, some type of form field, I should say. And as you can see, it did a pretty good job at identifying this is a text block, text. So this right here, if you were to save this right now, a lot of those tag issues are going to be named correctly. So again, it's chicken egg. You're doing a lot of the things at the same time. So I would probably check your form. Go ahead and prepare the form, see how everything's marked. Then you might want to, then you check your tags. Then you check your reading order and stuff like that. But that prepare form is going to try and automatically identify. That doesn't mean that they are good to go. It just means that they're at least recognizing The screen reader will at least recognize that it's a form, but what does that mean? So if you right click on like the very first one, employee ID, if you right click on that, select properties at the very top. And this is going to give you styling information and such. But under general, you'll see that the name is employee ID and the tooltip is employee ID. So name is what a developer would use. So you might want to say text box 1, but that's not going to help the user who's using a screen reader. That's the tooltip. So your tooltip you might want to say enter employee ID. It's that information that the user is going to need to know what action they need to do. And then you can mark it, read only, required. You can put all the customizations you want on it, but the name is for the designer, the developer, and then the tooltip is what you need for your screen readers. And then you just go through and you do each one like that. Enter name and just keep going. So not difficult, but definitely time consuming. Now, you might be okay leaving them both as is. That's going to be up to you. How much information does the user need for these tooltips? If they're self-explanatory, then you probably don't need it. Or you might even put in some copy that says, for each of these, enter in the information. And so they listen to that. And then when they go down to employee ID, they're going to know hopefully they'll know to enter employee ID or name or email. But again, that you're going to have to say that in the directions. So otherwise they're not going to know what to do there. And so overall, there's a lot of forms in here. So that prepare form did an amazing job of recognizing all the different form fields. And so if you were to go back into the tags and we want to, want to rerun those tags again. Let me just run that accessibility checker again. As you fix those, then they should be appearing in the there's one. You see now you got the form in there. So it's identifying a little bit better. But like I said, I only did like 2 or 3 of those. But this will update and reading order will update and all that as you start identifying. Actually, apologies. I forgot we cleared out the formatting. So that's why a lot of those are missing. So had we not cleared it out, and you added it into forms, that's why the structure isn't as intense, because we cleared a lot of that out. But that prepare form. So let's say, okay, so let's say here, this reason for disapproval. It's just 3 lines. It didn't know that is a text field to enter in information. So you would look over here on the left side and you see text field. So you would select text field and you see this little square here. This is now, you put that in and you have to hit escape, get rid of it, escape. And then you're going to want to adjust this text field to cover all of those. And then go into properties. And since you just added it, all it's saying is text 19. So you would give it its name. Again, for the developer, you might want to just leave it as text 19. That's up to you. But for the user, you're gonna, or for whoever, add reason for disapproval. And then close. So now that one is tagged. So you would just, so it's not, hopefully it will catch all of them, but it might not necessarily catch all of them. So you might need to go back in and add them in manually. And so all the different options are here, but just the big thing is to make sure that under properties, you have a name and then the tooltip, which is for the screen readers. And I usually keep them the same. You might say enter, you could even say text box 1, enter name. I don't necessarily know why you might need to do that, but let's say there's some kind of programming thing that needs to be done with the form. That's for that developer type thing. So you can just keep the name the same, or you can put in a little bit more description for that. Actually, no, looking at that, it just added in there. You wouldn't see this necessarily. You won't see this when the form comes in, but you can see it as the developer. Since we're developing this form, you're going to see it. So whatever is easiest for you as the designer, the developer, to know that is the box that you're referring to. And the reason I said go ahead and do it in here is because that conversion from Word over to Adobe, if you did these in Word, the theory is they should work. It should all transfer over, but it doesn't always, and I don't know why. And so I just find it easier to put in the structure and then actually go in and make the form fields active within Adobe. Was everybody able to try doing that? That work?
Yes.
Okay. So we just showed that. So, okay. So now if you can in Word, go ahead and pull up the one that says example 3 structure. And for this, all I did was take a couple, you can see I didn't do much, but I took a couple of elements from the form and I just copied it into here. And this here, what I did is I manually designed it. So like with the tab type thing, I added it a line. Here I actually entered in the table. So you can see there, this one is a table, but without the border. So I just want you to see when you create the structure in a Word document, what it's going to look like when you take it into Acrobat. So here's a manual structure. Here's a table structure with borders and a table structure without borders. And then down here, I have a checkbox that I added in. It should be a legitimate checkbox. Here, I just left some space in front of spring. that something could be added in here. And then I added in a manual checkbox just using, I just inserted a shape. So I kind of made a faux. So these are just ways that you can set up the structure within Word that, and I'll show you what these all look like, the difference when you actually convert it over to Word. And then for signature, I just left some space. Because if these, you would add that signature over in Acrobat there. So for that one, I just left some space. So if you can, please pull up the PDF that says example 3 _ structure.
So are all of these positive examples or are some of them?
Oh no, some of them are, you're going to see that these are, some are not ideal. And so the first thing I want to do for this one is I'm just going to go straight in and I'm going to prepare the form. Because for this one, we're really looking at, for this one, yes, we will touch on tags and that kind of stuff. But for this one, it's really showing how to do a form, taking the form or the structure in Word, taking it into Acrobat, and then doing the form fields over here. That's what I'm trying to demo right now. So when I select prepare form, it's going to go in and try and identify the actual form, potential form fields. And you just say create form. And so it went in and it identified the line as a potential form field. In the table with a border, the cell below it detected that, but the table without the border, those cells down here are empty, or there's nothing. It didn't detect that it was a form for these. So for that, you would have to go in and manually enter in a text box for those. So, sorry. It will not escape. Okay. So do you see the three differences? It tries to find anything that might be a form. So a line, an empty cell, but the cell on the table only works if you have the border, which again, be honest with you, I'm not sure what the problem is there, but I guess because it can't see it, it doesn't know. So that's when you're going to have to manually go in and enter your form in there. Would everybody like to try that real fast?
Yeah, I'm working on it as
Okay.
you've been explaining.
And while you're working on that, I just wanted to show you the three examples for the checkbox. Here's the checkbox that I created through forms in Word, and Adobe is not recognizing it as a form field. Here is just the empty space that I added in. So if I wanted a checkbox there, I could just enter in a checkbox. But the problem with this is only, is visually this okay? To have that much of a space there. You might want it to look a little different. So this second one, you might have some more control. I put this in Word. I put it in a table so that I could maybe control the spacing a little bit better. So it's a table with no border. And my hope was that it would look, although it clearly doesn't look perfect. So you might have to tweak that structure a little bit, but those are the three ways, or the way that it looks, three different ways. Checkbox failed. So you would have to enter in a checkbox here. You could manually add one in, or when you did prepare form, it will recognize that shape as potentially a checkbox. You still need to go in there and do your properties for it. And then for the signature, you just drop in your signature for that. And what else I wanted to show? Oh, I didn't run my accessibility checker. This Word document came in with, I had put the title in, so that was good. Passed the language, that was good. Still needs that manual check on the reading order. Oh no, I failed. I failed the title. All right, so I didn't put it in on that one. Failed the title. Need to check my color contrast. My page. I got some form field issues because this is again the naming is not. I haven't set up the naming correctly on some of these. So I need to go in there and check. There's some form fields. The descriptions are missing. The alt text on the graphic is missing. And so let's say I went in and I wanted to just look at the content tags. I can see, okay, so I have my H1, I have an H2. So I got a little bit going on. There's my table. Inside my table, I have a TR, another TR, and then I got another, okay, an H2, there's nothing there. So that's wrong. And then I got another table, and then inside the table, I got a TR, table row. And you would just kind of go through. Now, if it's wrong, then you can go in. So like this one here, that is just dead. There's nothing there. Clearly, what I did was do an extra return. I didn't use line spacing. So that's just an empty paragraph. P stands for paragraph. On that, you could just go in, select the P, and delete it. And then you just keep going through down here. Okay, I did it again. Here's extra space. Go ahead and delete that one. This is marked as a paragraph. Probably not. This is probably an H2. So we're going to want to retag that in the reading order panel to make that an H2. And then if you run the tags again, it will change. So we can go back over here, go back into fixed reading order. And on 20, we want to 20. We want to go ahead and delete that one. And then highlight it again. There we go. And then you'd go up and mark that as an H2. And it'll automatically adjust in the reading order. And then you just keep going through. Now, here's one that's missing. And that's going to be one of those tags for a form. So this is probably one of your annotation errors. So now if you open up the PDF it has the little A at the end of it. As I mentioned last time, when I make something accessible, I always put the little A in there so that I know. So in this one, I go in, I prepare the form. It picked up my 3 forms. I still need my signature. I'd added my digital signature. Just for purposes of demo. Sorry, I don't know why that always causes me trouble to try to unclick it. Okay. Okay. For demo purposes, we're just going to use the default names and label, the default ones. Name, employee ID, all that kind of. We're just going to use that for default. And then we would go over, we run the accessibility checker. And then you go over, okay, so we've got 3 errors, which is bad on my part. So figure, I swore okay. Okay. I was like, hold it, I know I got the alt text. So that signature field that I put in, I didn't give it any information. It didn't default. It was a new element that I added. So that's on me. I would need to go in and fix this one. Actually, I'd probably not do it as alt text. I'd go in and fix it as a form element. And then document issues, it passed the title, it passed the language. I still need to do the manual check of reading order, manual check of contrast, page issues. It's giving me that annotation because the form, let me just go fix that form. Properties. Sign here. Okay, now let's go back over and okay, still getting that error. All right, so let's mark you. And just say signature block. And then annotation. What is wrong with the annotation? What is it? So what's happening is it's not registering as a it's just seeing the signature. It's not recognizing this here at all. So I go into the fixed reading order, and that's going to be a form field. And we're going to want to select that as best we can and then mark it as a form field. And then close. So even though I did everything I could over in Word, there's still some issues. So looking at the reading order, 18, even though I put it in first, it's showing as 18. That is not correct. That should be number 1. So I'd go over in my order panel. I'd see 18 is image. I just drag that all the way up to the top. So now my screen reader would read image as number 1. Now I've got this 2. Here's that weird space that I couldn't figure out what was happening. So I can try and delete it because clearly I don't need that. So you just go and delete it. If for some reason it wouldn't allow you to delete it, you would just make it into an artifact. But then you need to check. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, there's a problem here. There's 8 and there's 9. It looks like there's like a spacing issue potentially between that line there. So you can get rid of number 8. And then, yeah, so you get rid of number 8, then 9 here, 10, it's just that reading order there. But you can see, though, other than the form field, when I added it in, the only real error when I converted it over was the logo was in the wrong spot and it had that wonky space here. But all of the other issues, if you look at the tags, it's got your figure, your H1, your paragraph, your H2, you got your little table, you got your next H2, you got a paragraph, another paragraph, although this one, it might be an H2, it might be an H3. I just marked it as bold. And then you've got your next little table. And then inside your little table, you've got your little figure. Now, path, the screen reader is just going to skip over path. Actually, what I would do on path is I would actually, wherever there's a path, it can cause a screen reader error. I would make path into an artifact if you can. Change tag to artifact. And so now it's just gonna, it would skip, the screen reader is gonna skip over that. And then you got your next paragraph and so forth. And then you're into your form. So the point of this was to kind of show you that the more you can do in Word, the more or less errors you're going to have. So step 1 in Word would be design your page layout, create the form structure, but don't enter the form fields there. Just leave maybe spacing or using a table. You can do it that way. Check the accessibility. Save the document as a PDF under like File, Save As PDF. Step 2 is when you get to Acrobat, go ahead and open up the Word document, run the accessibility checker, check to see if there are any like conversion errors. If let's just say you were given a Word document and you opened it up, you're going to want to check to see how many errors are in there. Do you want to like fix it or go ahead and fix it within Acrobat? You're going to prepare your form and you need the name and tooltip, and you rerun the accessibility checker if needed, fix all your errors, and then save the form. And there you go. Easy, huh?
Clear as mud, thanks.
Katie, I have a quick question about on the Adobe PDF example 3, the one you were last looking at.
Yes.
Under student information, you have EMPLED, and then the reading order, the next thing it would read was name, and then it would have the blank line under EMPLED. Do you think that we should reorder that so EMPLED would be read first, and then right after that, it would have the blank line saying enter EMPLED instead of EMPLED name, enter
Yes.
EMPLED?
Yeah, I would change the reading order so that your field is below it. Because that's how they're going to, also that will impact that tab order as well. not only the reading order, but how you tab through it. So yes, I would change the order on that. There's a lot. Adobe does not necessarily do a great job in explaining the errors. So I found myself Googling. Google will be your friend. I find myself like, what does this mean? Like even when we took our quick break, I checked reference. It means if you're putting a citation in there, and then note is just if there's a comment like in the thing, it's just a comment field. So there's a lot. I wish I could say I'm an expert, but when in doubt, I pull up Google and ask it to clarify. I know you guys have a lot of documents you need to redo. They can all be done in Adobe. I think your biggest problem is on some of those, that structure. You're going to need to clear out your structure and then re-tag each of the elements. Or you can, like I said, rebuild it in Word and pull it in, and then hopefully all those structure errors are negate. So if you want, what you could do is play around with the academic form, maybe play around with example structure 3, the unaccessible one, and see how you do, and let me know what questions come up. And if we need to regroup again, we can. Like I said, it's a lot of information, can be overwhelming.
So Katie, Monday, there's a student services retreat, and my goal in getting this, your 2 sessions done, was to be able to share with them basic information. So really the message for Monday in my mind is just like the headers. We've done kind of the text, the colors and readability, for instance, alt text, that kind of thing. But my message is going to be, if you begin to create, whatever you begin to create, only start it in Microsoft Word, right?
Yeah.
So beyond that, is there like anything else you think wouldn't overwhelm the people in our training?
Ooh, that's tricky.
Really, these aren't folks who are going to be building a ton of stuff, but I mean, occasionally each of us have something that we create that's sent out to students.
Right. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that your structure, it's that the tags in the reading order are how you move through that document and how the screen reader is going to know what's what. So those are like so important. I mean, all of the accessibility issues are important, but if you don't have that structure set up, it's going to be problematic. So again, it's a lot of these issues are not going to be issues if they come over directly from Word. And what my suggestion would be, once you get something in Acrobat, is open it up, look at all the different types of errors, and if it's just like simple stuff like document properties, alt tags, stuff like that, even just naming the form fields, like those are relatively easy fixes. It's not until you get into the tagging and the structure, and it's not hard, it's just time consuming, just very time consuming. So the better shape it's in when it goes in, the easier it is to fix it.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk internally about, I'm thinking we're just gonna have to, change kind of how we've been doing some things, to ensure that nothing goes out that's not accessible. So we'll figure that out, I think. So somebody who left had a question. If she is sending a document to someone internally,
Mhm.
does that have to be accessible? Who she knows doesn't need accessibility.
Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording.
Okay, thanks. Yes,